Hello, everybody. Welcome to Region Football Weekly in our Centier Bank Studios. Thank you for making us a part of your Black Friday. For all those who are participating, I'm Jack Thiel. Beside me, Mike Dewan. We got Zach Snelly producing today's show. And what a weekend it is. It's state finals. The region has one team left. It's the undefeated Crown Point Bulldogs. We're sure going to be talking about that game against Ben Davis a lot here on today's show, Week 15. Now, as it is Friday, we do have a couple of games that have finished their state champions already. The odd classes play today, and the even classes play tomorrow. But the 1A, 3, and 5A schools, those are underway right now. And then 2A, 4A, 6A will be taking place at Lucas Oil Stadium tomorrow, Saturday. And that's the game we're going to be talking about, the Class 6A state championship. What a game it was. We talked a little bit about it on the RSN wrap-up show last week. The Crown Point Bulldogs, one of the first teams, I believe they are the only team since 6A alignment became a thing back, it was 2013, if I'm correct, became a thing. They are the first team from Class 6A in the region to make it this far. You know, we don't really see many teams just because, you know, when you start to play these Indianapolis teams, things get really tough for you, but give credit to Crown Point. Faced a really good Westfield team. They were number 6 in the state. In double overtime, they won 38-31. After leading 17-0, it got close at the end, but the Bulldogs, they prevailed. Right. They're a really resilient football team. And now that's the second straight week we've really seen this Crown Point team respond to adversity. You know, you go back to Penn a couple of weeks ago, they're coming back in the game as well, blocking extra point. They're driving down the field, missed field goal. They win that game. You're home against Westfield, your first home semi-state game ever. You get a big lead. Obviously, you're feeling really comfortable, and then here comes the Shamrocks out of nowhere. Yeah. And things get a little intense. But like I said, the Bulldogs, they prevailed. They were resilient, and they got that win. But you could say this is their toughest test. They have a giant ladder to climb if they want to win this one against the Ben Davis Giants. Literally. This is the best team in Indiana. They're ranked number 1 in so many polls. And not even that. They're ranked top 25 nationally in multiple polls. I believe I saw something today. The people who make those rankings for, you know, just around the nation, the highest they were, I guess, or the highest ranking they were, I believe, was 33, and the lowest they were was 22. So This is a Ben Davis team that's really good, and we'll talk about both of these teams, really go in depth, what players you should look out for. But, Mike, it's finally here, the state championship. We didn't know how many teams we would have at this point. But, you know, we both knew that if there was going to be one team left standing out of all the region teams, it were going to be the Crown Point Bulldogs.
Of course you want to see a little bit more, but nonetheless, we're happy to have one. And this is a team that, again, has shown it week by week. They are deserving of the spot. And if there was a 6A team to, you know, out of the 3 in the area that we would predict would be the first to kind of make this huge monumental game, I think it would be the Crown Point Bulldogs. And, again, there's most deserving as the next guy, and it's going to be a good one, man. That they're showing us they can win close. Again, these past 2 games have been tough. Again, Penn and Westfield, both very solid football programs, and Crown Point, again, that we could not be talking about them right now if a play went another way.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
Absolutely.
And they find a way to close out games. That was kind of a concern that we had going into these later rounds. Of course, they're running through the competition, you know, pulling out their starters in the third quarter, and now they have to play in the whole game, play a full 4 quarters and some overtime if need be, and they're showing us that, and maybe they'll show us again tomorrow.
For Crown Point, first ever state final appearance, you know, well, obviously that gets some nerves for you, but Craig Lucia, he's been in this position twice. Actually, you go back to his first year at Portage, and I believe that was in the 90s. 94. Took Portage to the state championship. And if you want to count his record with Illinois, Homewood Flossmoor, he took them to the state championship in 2014. But he's number 1. He's 0-2 in the state championships in Indiana and Illinois. So we have 2 head coaches trying to win their first state championship as a head coach. On the other side, you have Russ Mann in his first year at Ben Davis, was assistant there for a year. He's been an assistant a lot of places in Indiana. He's never been the head guy, but this is his first year. He's doing great things, and we'll start with Ben Davis. I mean, this team is as impressive as you can get on the stat sheet. Their lone loss is to one of the best high school football teams
I don't think you could have a
in the
better
country.
loss.
IMG Academy, they play all the way in Florida. You know, guys that you're going to watch in the NFL in a couple of years, a lot of them probably coming from the IMG Academy. It's a powerhouse. I believe on Max Preps, they're ranked number 5 in the nation. They did lose by 20, so the game got a little bit away from them, but nevertheless, this is such a battle-tested team, obviously with their win last week against a very good Center Grove team. I mean, that quarterback they had, I believe Tyler Cherry is his name, committed to the Duke Blue Devils. He is really good as well. So for this Ben Davis team, they're as battle-tested as it gets. And here's also another thing. What they did last week in Center Grove speaks to volumes because it ends Center Grove's 3-time defending state championship streak. So for the last 3 years, Center Grove has been your 6A state champions, and they had an 18-game tournament winning streak dating back to 2020. So this was impressive. A Center Grove team who was playing like the hottest football team in the state, and Ben Davis got that overtime win. But it is their 10th state championship, and they haven't lost one since 1996. They're, I believe, 8-2, or my apologies, I believe they are 7-2 in all their appearances.
Okay.
So before this one, they've only had 9.
Sure.
And if I am correct from what we've seen on the stat sheet, that would be their record in the state champions in terms of how many they have. But I mean, this is a team that obviously has done as good as you can in any sport. You got basketball, you got football, you've got cross country, you got golf, you got swimming, you got track and field, you got volleyball. I mean, this is Ben Davis. This is not just a football program; it's a powerhouse program in terms of how many sports there are. And on this playoff run, I mean, talk about the teams they beat: Brownsburg, Indianapolis Cathedral, and then Center Grove. Like we said, you can't have 3 better wins because that's the number 1, the number 3, and number 4 teams according to the Associated Press poll. Well, the reason why there's no number 2 team is because it's Ben Davis.
Yeah.
So they have beat pretty much the best competition you can play on this route. They're scoring about 41 points a game. And, well, like we said, Russ Mann, his first year as a head coach, he was with the team last year as an assistant. And these Giants are good. We'll start with the offense just because of how good it is. And it's going to start with their quarterback, Thomas Gakowski, the Miami, Ohio commit. He is just one impressive quarterback. The dual threat on the year, 31 passing touchdowns. He can run the ball as well. He's been really good in the run game. I was watching a couple of highlights from that Center Grove game. A lot of design runs for the senior quarterback. And on the year, I mean, he has 99 carries for 389 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's going to be the guy for them. When Thomas Gakowski's going, the Ben Davis Giants get going. But also look out for Elijah Price. He might be small. He's 5'6" on the field, but he's the quickest guy out there. I mean, you want a guy who can make quick jump cuts, and you're going to be watching the game. He's going to be on the left side of the field, and all of a sudden he's on the right side of the field.
Right.
That's Elijah Price. 933 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns on the year. He's averaging about 6 yards per carry. And you go to the receiving corps. They run a very spread offense. You got 4 wideouts, which is really going to make it tough for this Crown Point team. And when you have a quarterback like Thomas Gakowski, that's why you run that type of offense. It starts with Mark Zachary, a guy who's going to be talked about on Saturdays and maybe Sundays. He's an athlete. He plays both positions. He's a receiver and a secondary. But in terms of receiving, 46 catches, 719 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He's the number 1 Indiana high school football player in the class of 2025. 4-star recruit. He's actually the 63rd player in the whole nation in high school football. He's currently got offers from Notre Dame, Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan. I'm sure some of the schools will probably make their way out to Lucas Oil.
It's not a bad little track record.
Lucas Oil Stadium for
this kid, man.
Mark Zachary IV. He's just one of the best players, not just in the state, but in the country. I mean, how many times you get to say he's a guy from Indiana that we're calling the game or that we're covering is a top 70 player in the country.
Right.
It's as impressive as it gets. But look, there's other guys you got to watch out for. Nate Williams, another one, 551 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, and Zane Skabinski, big guy, 6'3", 370 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. This is an offense that is very loaded. You go back to all their games. I mean, their lowest output was that IMG Academy game. They only scored 14 points. But other than that, their lowest output was 26 against Lawrence Central. And the Crown Point defense is very good, but no knock on that defense, but they have never faced an offense this prolific.
Yeah, it's again, they're going to spread you out, and they're going to find ways to slash you. I think a big piece is Elijah Price. Again, we talk about Crown Point's linebackers, and I know we'll get into them a little bit in their D-line, but Price, I mean, again, they put receivers out wide, as we kind of mentioned, and again, they open up holes for Price. He's not, 4 yards in a cloud of dust running back, smaller frame. I mean, he just wants to get you an open field and try and tackle me.
Yeah.
You make a couple cuts. That's what he's best at, and that's what Ben Davis knows they could do and how to exploit that matchup. But then, I mean, you have a balanced as receiving core as you could just about get in the state. Gostkowski spreads the ball around if he's not running it himself. And this offense is as potent as it gets. And again, you mentioned this whole team as a unit. I mean, you can't play a better schedule. Again,
no, you can't.
Being from Indy, of course, we would talk about the competition there. And then I think you have one of the better losses in the country. I mean,
I think the best loss you could. I mean, other than like Mater Day, St. John Bosco, or Bishop Gorman.
Outside of those tough Cali and Nevada teams in Florida, we got a solid Florida powerhouse right here in IMG Academy. I mean, it's only losing by 20. That's not too bad of a loss in my opinion. And then again, this sectional and this whole playoff run's been fantastic. Brownsburg, of course, is a fantastic program. Cathedral in the regional, and then of course Center Grove, who's you mentioned that fantastic streak that they were on until obviously this past week. But yeah, they're the writing's on the wall. This Ben Davis team, they are you know what you're getting with them.
No,
I mean,
absolutely,
they're a very solid team. And what Russ Mann has done in his first year as coach, it seems like there hasn't been. He's been coaching there for plenty of years at the helm. It's again, they're a fantastic program, and it's a very tough test for Crown Point.
Yeah, one of their most impressive wins didn't even come in the state of Indiana. They traveled all the way to Ohio to play against Moeller.
Yeah.
So, you talk about how deep this team is in terms of the resume. Well, when you get asked to play a team like IMG Academy, it speaks to how good your team is and how respected your program is, and Ben Davis is a powerhouse. I mean, we talked about it. Now they're, I believe, 12th appearance. They're trying to win their 10th state championship. They haven't won one since back in 2017. I say make it sound like that was years ago, but I mean it feels so soon. It was I believe, so 6 years ago. So for them to have this powerhouse, it just tells you that this is a team loaded with a lot of great players, and then not just the state, but teams around the country. They know about Ben Davis. When you talk about them, they're one of the teams that a lot of people talk about. Ben Davis is a team that a lot of people from Indiana talk about. A lot of people pinned that game against Center Grove last week, the state championship, just because it was number 1, number 2 going at it. But, the Crown Point Bulldogs, they definitely deserve to be in this position. I'm excited to see how their offense fares against this Ben Davis defense. It's a loaded defense as well. It's going to start with Tariq Osiji. I probably mispronounced that. A lot of these guys got some tongue-twisting names, but nevertheless, they're a leading tackler with 108 tackles, 16.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 2 interceptions. Look for Drew Evans and the linebackers, 90 tackles, 12.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, 3 interceptions. And I'll tell you one thing, this team, they're ball hawks out there. Starts with Elijah Hearns. He's got 1. Alvin Contreras has 5. Nyland Brown, the Kent State commit, has 1. And Mark Zachary, we just talked about him, Mr. Indiana next year in the class of 2025.
Potentially.
In the secondary, 4 interceptions on the year, 8 pass deflections. This is a defense that they've been able to stop the run. They've been able to stop the pass. And what makes it even more impressive is they have been tested. I mean, they were facing Tyler Cherry last week, who's committed to Duke. And for them, although they did score 34 points in an overtime game, that is a lot. And you, as a defense, don't want to give up that many points. But, they've played with some of the best quarterbacks you got, some of the best running backs, some of the best receivers. This defense is very battle-tested, and it's very senior leadership-wise. There's a lot of seniors on this team that are the stat leaders. Osiji, like we said, Drew Evans, Nyland Brown, Alvin Contreras. I believe the youngest guy is Mark Zachary, but he's just so good.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Plays beyond his years.
Yeah, he plays beyond his years. This list is just going to be interesting. I mean, you put it down on our stat sheet, 23 interceptions, 266 quarterback hurries, 57 sacks, and almost 130 tackles for loss. We know Crown Point, they do pass the ball, but they are more comfortable running it,
I'd say
especially in that Wildcat formation that we saw a lot with Larry Ellison. It will be interesting to see how much Crown Point's success rate will be against this Ben Davis defense, just because from top to bottom, from your line to your safeties, it's as good as a defense can get.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this game, Ben Davis, again, we don't want to call anybody favorites, but again, with the track record they have,
it's hard.
And the travel distance they have, they have a lot of things going their way. And they have, we look at kind of these team stats, they make the plays that you have to make in order to win these games. Again, we talk about turnovers or just forcing penalties and whatnot. I mean, just getting guys behind the sticks. it goes a long way in championship football, especially when it's win or go home. And with a high-stakes game like this, you need playmakers like Ben Davis has to put teams out of the rhythm. And Crown Point, again, we're going to harp on their offense in a little bit, but Ben Davis, they're going to have to make a couple plays, I think, even though they may be in the driver's seat for this game, and a team that maybe could be expected to walk away with the title. They have the playmakers that potentially make some plays to sway this game in their favor. So we'll see.
For Russ Mann, look, although he is a first-year head coach, he is very experienced. Before this opportunity, he spent 19 years as an assistant head coach, starting at North Central, going to Lawrence Central, then Warren Central. He's really been through the grinder. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who's seen a lot of football. He's been in a lot of coaching situations. Although he's not the head coach, you still learn a lot in that assistant coach position. And as well, this is his 5th appearance, state championship appearance, just as a person. He played as one back in the day. This is his 3rd as an assistant, and like we said, his 1st as a head coach. So although it's a first-year head coach and maybe doesn't have as much experience as Craig Bazia does, which we'll talk about, he still has a lot of experience under his belt from playing in sports back in high school. He said he played in the 1998 4A state championship. They played Cathedral. Unfortunately, they did lose. He was the Phila and Eskew Award winner, so definitely making an impact on the football field when he was back in high school. But nevertheless, Russ Mann, I feel like he's ready for this moment. You know, you don't coach at Ben Davis if you're not ready for the moment. You know,
that's it.
You're going to coach a powerhouse program like this. Those people who make those decisions, they know you're ready for it. I mean, he spent 1 year as the assistant last year, and when he had the opportunity, I believe he probably jumped on it as fast as he could, knowing that his philosophies and how well it could mesh with this Ben Davis football team.
Yeah, it's to only be in the program for that little time and to again be promoted to head coach again. Congrats to him, but it speaks volumes. Again, playing for the coaching, leading a prestigious program like Ben Davis. You mentioned it. He knows what it takes in especially indie football. It's competition down there. It's the best.
It's different.
It's the best of the best, I'd say, in the state. And it's you probably run into, again, being around those indie schools you mentioned. You run into Ben Davis probably a couple times, and especially he knows what that community and that school is asking for from a head coach, and it's why they're here in his inaugural season, and it's why they're fielding such talented players like they are right now. So we'll see. Again, credits to him, but we still got one more to go, and again, they got a beast waiting in front of them, I'll say. So
well, we had Michael Hagg at the press conference that took place at Monday in Indianapolis, where he was able to talk to Russ Mann about his team in this upcoming game.
We've had a fun ride. We've got a little winning streak going on now, 9 games, but the playoffs have been enjoyable too. We got over the hurdle of beating Brownsburg in the playoffs and beating Center Grove in the playoffs. And all in all, I had to play a very, very difficult, well-coached team for Cathedral as well. So it's been a fun journey, and hopefully you finish off with some success on Saturday night.
Talk about the Brownsburg game. You guys was down 2 scores, and it was a 3rd and 5 situation, I think. And instead of running the ball, they threw it, and you guys returned it for pick 6. And from there, it's all Ben Davis. How did that pick 6 change the mindset and mentality for you guys?
Well, at that moment, it was too early for Brownsburg to potentially go into an all-run situation. And there were a lot of times where I've even texted with their offensive coordinator and talked a little bit about it. Like, if they would have played prevent type of keep the ball away, we had some success in stopping the run now. Their running back, Sherrill, had an outstanding year, and he did have some big runs against us. He had a 60-yarder and 50-yarder. He had that capability of doing that. But if they would have just gone to a keep-away mindset, there was way too much time on that clock to do that. At some point, our offense had been moving the ball. We just had not punched it in. And since we had just punched it in, you could feel a comeback kind of starting to mount a little bit. If it wasn't going to be fully done, but you felt like we were going to at least get another score or 2 in or an opportunity for another one, the pick 6 helped speed that up a little bit and then change that game into a completely different environment. And there's our linebacker, Tarigo Rashidi, pointed out to us that when we were down 18 to Brownsburg, we went up 3 to seal the deal.
Yep.
And then when Center Grove, we were up on Center Grove, we were up 18. They went up 3. We didn't fold. Like we actually buckled down and had to battle back to tie the game. So the exact same situation. The situations flipped on us. and we tied the game up. So it was credit to our offense being able to come back and get us in field goal range.
Yeah, you guys didn't have no trouble with Pike and stuff like that, but talk about the dogfight you guys had with Cathedral.
Wow, that game was physical. And Danny O'Neal, like that man, he took some hits, he pulled out, had a heck of a high school football career. I think he finished with 95 or 96, probably 96 touchdown passes, near 10,000 yards. Won a state championship as a sophomore with numbers that are ridiculous. And he got respect from our team and our coaching staff. The hits that he took, and then the show that he put on, and the throws that he was able to make, and then the physicality of him, kind of set us up for this state championship game where. When you see on tape, you can already tell Crown Point's physical, but that, I walked out of that regional game and I was hurt. I didn't even play the game, but I was like, my goodness, there was some respect going on in there.
Yeah, talk about how Zane, Mark, Isaiah, and Thomas have been like the go-to guys for these years and stuff like that, and they're like the ones who like say, hey, we might be down, but we're not knocked out. As long as we're still breathing, we got a shot.
Absolutely. I've been on the other side of the city for 9 years and have had to defend Ben Davis offenses. It's a nightmare, especially when you have the perimeter and the weapons that we've had to defend for many years. Luckily, now being on this coaching staff, our offensive staff, offensive coordinator, Caleb Small and Justin Ferris, they do a great job of designing things and put our guys into situations and make some plays for us. So when they get the ball in space or they get the opportunity to touch it, they are a fun group to see if they spread it out so you don't know who's going to do it. Zane was the one that stepped up in semi-state. Elijah has been there all season long, and he's running more and more powerful as the playoffs go on. And not to mention I ask him oftentimes when he comes back to the sideline or huddle, what did you press on the controller? Because he makes some moves that are very impressive.
Mm-hmm. Talk about this first time since 2017, Ben Davis has been back for state finals. Talk about the mindset of the kids so far this week. Yeah, it's the biggest game of their lives and stuff like that, but how are you going to keep them under control and stuff like that?
Well, this is what we designed the whole offseason for, so that mindset's already instilled. That mindset started a long time ago. The mindset if you try to find a picture of our guys with the sectional championship trophy, you can't have even touched it. If you're looking for a regional championship team picture, there isn't one. And it's in I tried to hand the one trophy off to some of our defensive players after the regional game, and they declined it. So if you look for our pictures of us with those trophies, there's one that they set their minds to. So that'll be the first time, hopefully, on Saturday. But the mindset's already there, and the mission's not done. So we'll see. There's one more week to prepare. We are playing a very nasty group, very well-coached group. Really catching a lot of steam here in the playoffs, and we've won 24 of the last 25 games, so we know we have the battle. So we see if we can try to complete that mission, but we have our hands tied, our hands full.
Speaking of Coach Brazili's team, talk about Crown Point and stuff like that. What do you know about them? And considering they had a tough game against Penn and also Westfield, where they had to pull it out in double overtime and stuff like that.
Well, they like I said, they've won 24 of their last 25 games. They started off last season 10-0, and then this season they haven't lost. That's 14 in a row, or 13 in a row. So they're doing a nice job. Obviously, their coaching staff has put them in this position. The Westfield game, you could see the juice and the momentum on the sideline, so you can tell that the players are all in, and that means that they are here at the stands as well. So you know that the environment that we're going to get into on Saturday, they'll have a lot of juice that will be behind them and push the players along.
So how are you going to be able to try to shut down both Noah, the quarterback, and Ellison, who's their leading running back?
The physicality piece, we're going to definitely have to have eye discipline and make sure we don't lose sight on the tight end or their H-back releasing out into some routes. But the physicality piece, making sure that keeps the players clean, that they can make their some tackles, and their running back is very difficult to find behind some of these runners, and does a nice job of running patiently and knowing when to burst. So being sure tacklers, being where we're supposed to be, being physical.
Key for Ben Davis to get their Pitt State championship Saturday?
Starting fast. We got to make sure we can apply a little pressure in this game. We understand that it's going to be a physical game for our defense, and even if we get into a lead or if we have to come back, it's going to be, as the game goes on, they're going to try to wear us down in the defensive side, and making sure that we are understand defensively the physicality piece is going to come with this game. Even if a lead happens or a comeback has to happen, it's going to get even more violent, even more physical. So making sure we win that battle right there.
Von Tobel is your locally owned building material supplier and design center. We have a department for every room in your home. Visit one of our 3 Northwest Indiana showrooms to see your options for kitchen cabinets, countertops, vanities, showers, flooring, decking, and more. Visit VonTobels.com for project inspiration and to request a free design consultation. Von Tobel, building better, together.
When life takes you places and you can't get to the store, shop online with Strack and Van Til To Go. Our to-go service is easy to use and it can save you time and money. Once your order is in, our own Strack and Van Til team preps your order with care. For delivery or pickup, enjoy the convenience of letting our to-go team shop for you. Enjoy your special moments. Sign up online today at shop.strackandvantil.com.
Hi, I'm Crowell Company's Lantern Man. I'll cover your motorcycle. I'll be with you on the water. I'll be with you on the snow. I'll cover your insurance needs wherever you go. I'll be at Crowell Agency from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. As Crowell Company's Lantern Man, I'm your insurance superhero.
Crowell Companies, the insurance professionals in Highland, Maryville, and Michigan City.
From schools to stadiums, hospitals and bridges, everywhere you look, union carpenters are building Indiana. With jobs and skilled trades in high demand, there's never been a better time to start building your future. As an apprentice, you'll earn a debt-free college degree, earn while you learn, and receive great benefits like healthcare and retirement. So what are you waiting for? Visit carpenters.com to learn more. Visit carpenters.com and start building your future today.
Thinking about what to do after high school? Consider a career with Boilermakers Local 374. As a Boilermaker apprentice, you'll earn while you learn. We offer excellent wages and benefits, and as part of our no-cost hands-on apprenticeship program, you'll learn from the best in state-of-the-art training centers and on the job. Become a union Boilermaker and get on your way to a great career. Find out more, visit www.local374.org or call 219-845-1000.
Have you checked out Centier Bank's student checking account? This no-fee checking account is perfect for students and teens ages 14 to 24 and comes with all the features you need to succeed, such as a debit card, digital banking, and automatic deposit. Centier Bank can help you start establishing good spending habits today for your better tomorrow. For more information, visit Centier.com/student-checking or visit your local branch. If you are under the age of 18, your parent or guardian must also sign on the Centier student checking account. At the age of 25, your account will automatically convert to the Centier checking account. You must deposit $25 to open this account. This account is not eligible for overdraft advantage. Member FDIC.
Back here on Region Football Weekly, great to hear from Russ. Man, a big thank you to Michael Hagg, who was at that press conference in Indianapolis on Monday, for getting that interview. It's always fun to hear a first-year head coach what their thoughts are going into this game. I know Ben Davis, like we talk about, they've had a little bit of a different season in a lot of schools that we cover. You know, usually you don't travel to Ohio. Usually you don't welcome a team from Florida, you know, to Indiana in a football game. So it's fun to hear how he's processed this whole year and how he's getting his team ready. But a team that's ready is those Crown Point Bulldogs. You know, we were talking about it last Friday night. How about them Bulldogs? The way they've been playing 13-0. They're, I believe, one of 5 undefeated teams playing in Indianapolis this weekend. Obviously, the only one in the Class 6A. Mm-hmm. And all they do is win. You know, we keep saying or asking the question, can they respond to adversity? How resilient is this team? How much can this team bend before breaking? And that question still remains to be answered just because of how well they've played these last 2 games. They've never folded. They've never broke. You know, they've never shied away from any tension, any stressful situations. They attack those situations, and boy, did they perform well. I mean, if there was a test on how resilient and how tough this Crown Point team, it's 100 out of 100. The way they've battled these last 2 weeks against two great teams in Penn and Westfield, it shows you that this team is ready for this moment. You know, great teams rise to the occasion, and that's what Crown Point has done these last 2 weeks. You know, they have shown, even though they're from the region and Region 6A teams don't make it this far, they belong in the conversation to be one of the best teams, not just in 6A, but in the state of Indiana. And of course, it starts with, it's just a team effort. I mean, you were at that game against Penn. We watched the game against Westfield. It's not, they didn't win because of one guy or two guys. They won because of a team effort. You know, I feel like every week for this Crown Point team, we're talking about someone different. And last week against Westfield, Trevor Gibbs, I mean, talk about the wild card. I mean, you got to think about it. This guy has he's the third most touchdowns on the team. He's not a starter on the offense. He starts on defense, actually, but they plug him in there sometimes, and people forget about him. And he's out there wide open catching footballs. I mean, he has been such a huge piece to this offense, and that's just how deep this Crown Point team is. You can plug guys in any position, and they just seem to perform very well. I mean, Trevor Gibbs, he's got 8 touchdowns on the year, 2 last week, and 2 of those were huge. And you go back to other guys. Jacob Jones is a huge guy. Nick Soley has been also huge. And obviously Larry Ellison, Will Clark, Paul Clark, Noah Ehrlich, Landon Delich. We're always going to talk about them because how good they are. But nevertheless, this is a Bulldog team scoring about 38 points a game, but only allowing 11 points, which is the best in Class 6A. And they have the largest margin of victory in Class 6A. 27 points is their margin of victory. Now, that's probably slimmed down a little bit just because of how close their last 2 games were. You go on the road, 34-33, only win by 1, and you beat Westfield by 7. So there are 2 lone single-digit victories have come in the last 2 weeks. But if you're Crown Point, you wanted those victories to be close just because it tests you. You know, that's the big question we had going in the playoffs for Crown Point was how tested is this team? Look, yes, they dominate competition, but we've seen teams dominate, and then once they play better teams and in those close game situations, you kind of don't know what to do because you've never been in that specific situation. But like we said, they've handled their business, and that's all you can do on the football field is handle your business out there on Friday nights or Saturday nights, and that's what they've done. First state championship appearance, trying to get that first state championship in football. But this is a school that's been on the rise in sports. You go back to the wrestling program, nationally known. You know, they've won state the last 2 years. You know, girls basketball a couple of years ago won state. So Crown Point's on the rise. This is a school that's evolving. You know, you go look at their facilities, it's some of the best in the area. And now their football team is kind of getting to that spot where Craig Bazia thought he could get it to. You know, he left Homewood Flossmoor, came to Crown Point, and I've run in a couple articles that if Crown Point was really the only school he's interested in, you know, he didn't really want to go to anywhere else. He didn't want to really leave Illinois. But if Crown Point was open, he wanted to go there. And he didn't just want to go there to win football games. He wanted to go there to create a community, to create a huge atmosphere, and that's what he's done. If you haven't had the opportunity to go check out Crown Point at home or even in the area, go in the square downtown, that place is just like your typical Friday Night Lights downtown area, you know, closing down for football games. I'm sure no one's going to be trying to work Saturday night. They're all going to be trying to go to Indianapolis. I already know multiple and number of bars and restaurants are showing the game for people who can't make it. So, you know, Craig Bazia, he's not just about winning games and, you know, tailing on wins to his career, you know, coaching record. He's trying to build something, and he has in just a short amount of time. I mean, it's only year 3 in his stint with the Crown Point Bulldogs. He's got a lot more years left with this team, but the fact that he's been able to build this type of atmosphere and this type of community involvement in a 3-year time length, it shows you how special he is as a head coach, and it shows you how special this Crown Point Bulldog team is. And the offense has been a crucial part. You know, it's an offense that they might not throw 400, 500 yards a game. No one, you know, it's all around effort. We talk about it. Trevor Gibbs, I mean, somebody who doesn't play as many snaps as other guys, he has 8 touchdowns, which is the 3rd most on the team. You got Seamus Molaski, another guy. He doesn't play offense a lot. He's more of a defense guy. 5 touchdowns on the year. That's 13 touchdowns between two guys who are starters on defense and backups on offense. It shows you how deep they are, how well-rounded these kids are. They're not just, well, I can only play this position. No, a lot of these kids can move around. Landon Delich is another guy. He plays safety and secondary. Jacob Jones, another guy who we talk about, DB. So this is a Crown Point team. They've got a lot of bodies out there to where they do have the depth you need to survive in the 6A class. But it's also these kids, they love playing for Bazia, but it's also they're so well-rounded, so gifted, and so athletic out there that they can do multiple things. And Noah Ehrlich, he's been the nucleus of this team. Now, Larry Ellison's got the most yards, he's got the most touchdowns. But I will say for Noah Ehrlich, if you watched him for the first time, you cannot tell he's only a junior. He is poised, he's calm, he's confident, he's clutch out there.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's not throwing 500 yards a game, 400 yards a game. What he's doing is he's putting his team in situations to win a football game. Mm-hmm. He doesn't make mistakes. I believe on the year he's only got 5 interceptions. He doesn't make costly turnovers. He takes great care of that football. And he does it with his arms and his legs. Like I said, you're not going to see him throw it down the field 50 yards and big plays like that. But when you get to that 50-yard line, maybe you need 3 yards on the 4th down. You can trust him to get that, whether it's his arms or his legs. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're at the goal line. You need a play-action play. He's capable of rolling out and making that throw. Yeah. And that's what's huge about him. The fact that he's only a junior, it's just mind-blowing because he looks like a 6-year senior you see in college in today's game. But Larry Ellison, also another guy. 29 touchdowns. 26 of them have been rushing, over 1,700 rushing yards. And he's carried a lot of the load lately as well. Really haven't seen this much of a formation the past year, but the last 2 games, really a lot of wildcat, a lot of direct snaps right to him. And it makes sense because this is an offensive line that is very skilled. You got Machete at the O-line. I believe he was a state selection.
All-state last year,
yep.
Junior All-State. Probably going to find himself on the team again.
Oh, absolutely. With the way Larry Ellison's running, the Toledo commit has been so huge for them. He averages 6 yards per carry, 136 yards a game. Mm-hmm. And it starts with the receivers as well. Like I said, there's not one guy who's going to dominate you, but if there's any guy, it's Landon Delich. 6'4", senior, great size, great body. He's going to be able to go up and make those grabs. But you pay all that attention to him. There's also Nick Soley. There's also Jacob Jones. There's Cam Swarsey, another guy. But then, look, coming out of the backfield, there goes Trevor Gibbs. There goes Seamus Molaski at tight end. Yep. So it's all these pieces help combine and make just us a total team effort on offense. And their offense hasn't really been stumped all year long. The probably most game they were stumped were that Valpo game on September 22nd, 19-14. Other than that, Chesterton, that was a close game as well. But since then, you go to their playoffs, 42, 42, 34, 38. You've got some other 42, 49s, 42 again. This is an offense that you feel like you can stop when you watch on film. All you think is, they're just going to run the football. It's going to be Larry Ellison, the Wildcat formation, or Noah Ehrlich's going to take the ball himself. But they keep finding holes in the defense every week. When you think you've got them solved, they come out with another game plan, and that's where Trevor Gibbs came in last week. I bet you there isn't much film on Trevor Gibbs, but the film there is on him, it's touchdowns. Same with Seamus Molaski. He had a touchdown catch in that overtime, I believe the first overtime.
Right.
Just a vertical, straight up the middle. No one's really paying attention to him. He's about 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah.
Goes up, makes the grab.
Tough guy to miss.
It is, absolutely. But that's what this offense is. You think you have them solved when you watch film. I got them. We're going to be good. But they just pull a rabbit out of the hat, and they're able to find a weakness in your defense. And I'll be curious to see how they make that adjustment this week against Ben Davis. We obviously, harped a lot on how good their defense is. But for the Crown Point Bulldog offense, look, there might not be no Duke commit quarterback, but this offense is so well-rounded, and there's so many pieces that can contribute. It makes it hard to really focus on one player.
No, that's, again, you can't be relying on one player. Mm-hmm. You're here for a reason. You got guys all across the board that are going to play at the next level, and they're all state, all area, all conference selections. It's to have a historical year like Crown Point has in school history. It doesn't come by the hands of one player, and we saw that last week again. Trevor Gibbs, solid player going into that week, but to have a 2-touchdown game. It's there's no better time to have it.
It's not on your bingo card. Probably.
No, not at all. maybe he'll one-up himself, go for 3 this time around. But a fantastic game by, again, somebody who stepped up. Not a big offensive threat. Of course, he has, the third most touchdowns on the team now. Yeah. But it's again, a huge game for the sophomore. Again, him and Seamus both kind of play on the offensive side, kind of that tight end H-back role, and it's kind of on deception. They're almost, I wouldn't say a fullback in that sense, but I mean they're bigger bodies. They could lay a body on somebody and free up some holes for Ellison or Ehrlich, but they could obviously slip out in the passing game. I know they run a lot of flats with those guys, and they find themselves open. And I mean it's a perfect scheme. Again, it's all again we talk about the coaching staff. They just set these guys up for success, and they know when your number's called, you can go in there and produce for the Crown Point Bulldogs. But, yeah, we consider talking about the guys, again, that we've talked about for 15 weeks and some change. But it's you know what you're getting with CP. Again, they got some playmakers. Again, harping on Ehrlich. It's crazy to think he's a junior, but, I mean, he's a 3-year starter. He again, started at Hobart, another fantastic program that always expects a lot. They love football. And going to Crown Point, again, this was a team, you mentioned how great their athletics are. Football was kind of, again, I'd say one of the only programs of theirs that they could have used work on maybe a couple, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
They were a respectable program, but not one we'd expect to be in the state finals. And again, Coach Buzia coming in, as well as the investments they made in that program, it's completely night and day. The whole town, whole city, I should say, has got their back. And again, we're expecting the same this weekend. And yeah, it's a magical run for Crown Point, and again, they have the players to do that. And I guess we're going to have to wait and see who steps up come tomorrow.
I've been seeing on their Facebook or Twitter page, I should say, how much spiritware they've had to make for this week. They had to work overtime, I heard, to make all this spiritware for people to pick up today for the game tomorrow. It's absolutely crazy how this community is so involved, and it's awesome to see. I mean, this is like, it's the stuff you see in movies and TV shows. Like I said, where everybody closes down their downtown, shops, and they got their Crown Point shirts on, and they all go to the game. That was the case last week. I mean, I don't know who wasn't at that. You're either at the bar, restaurant watching the game, or you're either at Bulldog Stadium, watching the game, and that might be the case Saturday. It's a Saturday night, holiday weekend. You're able to make that travel down to Lucas Oil Stadium. And like I said, I mean, I've been seeing all their stuff on Twitter, how much spiritware they've had to make just for Saturday. It's an impressive job by everybody involved with the Crown Point, whether it's the athletics, the booster club, or everybody in the community. It's just so impressive, the quick turnaround they've made to get everybody just ready for Saturday night.
I mean, it was crazy on Friday. Like I saw.
Yeah, you were there for a couple minutes.
A little bit. And reporters were there, and they were taking. I mean, gates opened. I think
at 5:15 or 5:30.
And about an hour before kickoff.
They opened extra parking lots. Yeah, gates were open earlier than usual.
An hour before kickoff, the home bleachers were full.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, again, everybody was. I mean, it's insane with that community. Again, they're on board, and I was there for a couple minutes. I had to drop some off, and it was police escorts everywhere.
Unreal.
I mean, it felt like a college football type of environment, and that place again was bumping, man. It's again, everyone's on board with the Crown Point Bulldogs, and rightfully so.
And that's what Craig Buzia wanted to bring to this community.
Yeah,
he didn't, like I said, he didn't just want to come for the wins. He wanted to come to build something. And, Indiana loves football. Although we're basketball people, we talk about that, how basketball's so prominent in the area.
Right.
Football is as well. And I think, we talk about the Hobarts, the Andreans, maybe the Lowells, how well-rounded our community is, how packed those games are. But other than those three schools, you really want to see more of that, because how amazing it is to see their community so involved with a high school football team, because it makes these high school kids feel like rock stars out there.
Right.
I mean, they're playing in sold-out stadiums. Obviously, tomorrow in Lucas Oil Stadium where the Colts play, and I'm sure that place is going to be, that 100 level as filled as possible, just because you have Ben Davis, who's located in Indianapolis.
Right.
And then Crown Point, 2-hour drive, that isn't too bad on the weekend. It's a night game, so you can sleep in a little bit, if you want to. But
it's been quite the week for Crown Point.
Yeah,
from what I'm seeing.
It really has. They've been so they had
travel, man.
Had the captains Monday down there for the press conference. Right. Tuesday they came up for practice. I believe they did at Purdue, and then they had a walkthrough at Lucas Oil Stadium. I think Wednesday they came back home, practiced at the Sparta Dome, and then yesterday, Thursday on Thanksgiving, they practiced at the Sparta Dome as well. Today, I believe they're making their way up to Indy. Probably going to practice. I'm not sure where they would practice, because Purdue plays this weekend at home, so they might be using those facilities. Nevertheless, they'll find somewhere to practice, obviously. But it has been a weird
hotel ballroom. Maybe.
Yeah,
it's all Again, of course, Lucas Oil is being used, but it's a lot of moving parts. Again, it's with Ben Davis being so close, that's a little beneficial to them. And
I believe the Colts play Sunday too at Lucas Oil.
Yeah, it's a lot of turnover over in that whole facility. But for Crown Point, it's again a couple trips to Indy. Of course, you got to lodge a holiday in there too as well. You got to kind of worry about that, and we'll see, man.
Yeah.
It's again a lot of fun times for the Crown Point community and the football team. But a lot of that travel, again, that's something to kind of note, I'd say.
Well, we talk about the offense, but the biggest test is going to be for this defense for the Bulldogs. Obviously, you haven't faced an offense this good. Definitely not a quarterback like Thomas Gatkowski.
Right.
Definitely not receivers like Zane Skibinski, Nate Williams, Mark Zachary IV. But if we're going to be honest, this defense is so good. It starts with Will Clark. I can't think of a player that's had such more of an impact on a football team from my own viewpoint in high school football. I mean, 122 tackles, 13 for loss, 6 sacks, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. But his impact isn't just on the football field; it's also on the sidelines. You know, when I was doing sideline coverage for Lake Central and Crown Point a couple months ago, you know, when Lake Central was kind of getting some drives going, and you know the defense would come back on the sidelines, and no one would talk besides him. He's the leader of that defense. And like I said, it's not just on the field. It's on the sidelines as well.
Yep.
Not just getting the defense ready, but getting the guys on the bench ready just in case they have to come in.
Right.
You know, getting the guys in offense saying, look, we got your back. Like, don't worry, we have your back. And Will Clark is the example of a leader and a guy who is driven and a guy who's really going to make a great impact, especially at Buffalo where he is committed.
Right.
I know Crown Point Wrestling misses him. I mean, they had their first meet Tuesday against Portage. They won, but I'm sure they miss Will and Paul Clark. The Clark brothers are so huge in that wrestling community.
They'll be fine for a little bit. The wrestling program.
I'm sure they're enjoying this right now.
Yeah, you know.
I'm sure the whole wrestling team's probably going to be there Saturday night.
Yeah, right. Like again, there's some wrestlers obviously playing football. I think Machete too is a wrestler, and Sheamus. I don't know. They all could probably jump into wrestling and be fantastic at it. The way
a lot of these guys are multi-sport athletes.
I know track. I know
it's impressive.
Big. I know Sheamus is going to Purdue for track, and it's just again so many athletes on this team. It's tough to kind of pick out who's the best athlete. When I was kind of doing a little bit of write-ups for the all area teams, it's like. You have Will Clark, who's a fantastic wrestler. Then you have Seamus Molaski, who's going to Purdue for throwing. I mean, these guys are just dual-faceted and everything. And again, it's why they're just so effective. Again, you talk on that defense too. Clark has been fantastic. He's one of the more fun linebackers to watch from a linebacker perspective. For myself, there's a lot of kudos to what they do. He's fantastic in that whole unit. Again, they're going to have their hands full, and I think they're definitely using a lot of bulletin board material. Again, the last 2 games they've given up 30+, and that is they didn't give up anything more than 14 up to that point. So I'm sure they're looking to tighten down the hatches and maybe contain a very solid Ben Davis offense.
It's not just Will Clark either. I mean, you mentioned that Seamus Molaski, Trevor Gibbs, I guess we call them offense and defense guys now the way they've been playing. Nate Kalk has been huge on that end, 14 tackles for loss. Mark Gonzalez, Griffith Van Tischlet, Drew Correll. You know, there's so many more guys. Jacob Jones has had a huge impact. Jalen Kelly, another guy.
Right.
You have Landon Delich, who's really stepped up in that secondary role over the past couple of weeks. So the Crown Point defense, they are going to have their toughest test, though, is because you've never really faced probably a pass-heavy offense like this. They run a spread offense. They're going to have 4 receivers on the outside. All guys are big. All guys are fast. But also, Elijah Price, you got to watch out for him. Kendall Garnett III for Westfield. He had 4 rushing touchdowns last week.
Yeah.
You know, although they did a good job limiting the big runs, when Westfield really needed those runs to gain a first down or to get a touchdown, he was able to get them. So for Crown Point, they got to look back at the film because it is the first time, I believe, or I should say the second time their defense has really been tested. You know, you go through the whole season, the only time someone scores more than 12 points is one time in Valpo on September 22nd. You go to Penn, you give up 33, and Westfield 31. Yeah, you're upset about that. You got the win, but still you want to play better as a defense. But it gets even harder because and that's how the playoffs work. You know, it gets harder and harder. But like I said, their offense I've been impressed with a lot just because sometimes you face a lot better defenses. I know Westfield's defense was probably the best defense they faced all year, and they scored 38 points on that defense. They got 17 straight points, at halftime. So this is a Crown Point team, very well-rounded, offense and defensively. Craig Bazzi, I mean, he's had so much success over the years. At Portage, he made the playoffs, made the state championship his first year as the Portage head coach, then Homewood Flossmoor, then Michigan City, and then Crown Point, of course. I mean, he's just had so much success wherever he's gone. You know, he built Homewood Flossmoor into a great program.
Right.
You know, you go back to their appearances in the quarterfinals, they had 6 appearances from 2010 to 2019, state finals in 2 of those years, and that was his first year he made the state finals. In his first year at Homewood Flossmoor, in his first year at Portage, he made the state finals. That's as impressive as it gets.
That's walking to a program. That's all he knows how to do is just change programs for the better. Man.
And obviously here in his 3rd year, I believe Crown Point, they've won 24 of their last 25 games. And that just he's just had success wherever he's gone. He was also a very successful high school football player back in the day. A lot of people know him. Griffith. You just found that out earlier.
Dude, yeah, this is the best media guide, I think, by far. I know his kids' names now. I know his wife's name. I know where he went to school, what he studied.
We know what he studied. He went to IU for Masters of Science.
Yeah, like we're close as we could be now. I know just about everything about Coach Buzz and Coach Russ as well.
Yeah.
This is a fantastic media guide, but yeah, all this guy knows how to do is build, and it's maybe 3rd time's the charm. Again, two state championship appearances before this, but unfortunately was on the losing side of things. But hey, this would be a fantastic thing to check off the bucket list.
I don't know where we could find this stat, but he has now taken 3 different teams from 3 different schools to the highest class they're in the state championship. Portage, that was 5A back in the day. Homewood Flossmoor in Illinois, and now Crown Point here in the 6A. That's 3 different schools to the highest class you can play in to the state championship.
That's a tall ask, man. Again, a lot of kids you gotta kind of deal with. A lot of different personalities. It's again credit to the the rest of the coaching staff too, because you need an army. Again, you have so many players probably on your team. You have to know who goes where. Again, scheme fits, all that. It's a full staff effort, and again, Buzia is the head of that, and it's a lot of the brunt goes on him. But of course, he knows his guys. I bet a lot of those assistant staff guys are guys he's been around with for a while, and he picks them well, obviously, and he's doing a fantastic job. And he's got one more thing to check off.
Yeah,
so we shall see tomorrow.
He's an Indiana Football Hall of Fame inductee in 2023.
Well deserved, man.
And I don't know if you've seen Colts owner Jim Irsay. Every week they post, they do a high school coach of the week.
Right.
He's won multiple times this year. Yep. So even the owner of the Indianapolis Colts knows how well Craig Buzia's got his team rolling right now.
Fantastic story. Cancer survivor, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a trooper, man. He's
a good trooper, dude. And he's an inspirational person that you would love to play for, not just as a coach, but somebody to look up to, as a friend.
Yeah, someone to root for.
Yeah,
man.
Absolutely. It's not just a coach. He's somebody who a lot of people respect and love in his community in such a short time, and you can tell everybody around the area is so happy with the performance he's done over the years and how much he's had to go through in life and the way he's attacking life. It's just even more inspirational, especially for high school kids, young, growing and learning, and for your coach to be the way he is, how awesome he is, and the fights he's had to go through his life, it just even makes you want to play harder for a guy like that.
For sure. Again, if you don't have anybody to play for, your senior leaders, you at least have your head coach to play for.
Absolutely.
And you kind of spark that momentum in you, and hopefully kind of lead him to another crowd surfing. I see he's taking up crowd surfing nowadays with how many winnings they're getting.
You gotta be careful. Do not.
Dude,
they did a good job last week,
those
though.
videos are funny, man. Yeah,
he got good air, though.
Dude,
he got some air.
They got some strong guys on their team, man. You got to rely on some guys to work on their shoulder press, get them up there and crowd surf. But
I know he had a running start, but he got some air on that jump. I was pretty impressed, and it was a pretty straight vertical launch.
Yeah, you could tell he was an athlete. I should have known by then. If you had this media guide, I would have known back then, but. Yeah, man, it's again
that's why we coach the crowd surf with our football teams after victories.
That's for sure, man. That's the goal. Win some hardware and crowd surf with your team. But yeah, that's again guy to root for sure. Nonetheless, I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse, repeat myself, but it's it's just one of the guys, man. You want to play. It's simple as that. He's the nucleus for this all.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he didn't crowd surf in this video, but Michael Hagg, who had that interview with Russ Mann, he was able to go down to Media Day on that Monday and interview Greg Buzia and Noah Ehrlich on the matchup this Saturday night. Here it is.
I'm with Crown Point's football coach, Craig Puzio. Craig, congratulations again to the first state finals. How does it feel?
It was great. I mean, we're excited to get going and have a great week of practice and compete against a great football team on Saturday.
Talk about your season in general overall and stuff like that. You guys had a pretty decent season, especially with the combination of both Noah and Larry, and then with Noah as your quarterback this year too.
Yeah, I think offensively and defensively, it's about as good as we could ask for. Our defense finished the year with, top defense in the state in regards to scoring production. And, offensively, we've been pretty well-rounded. Noah's had a great year. Larry's had a great year. But, probably the biggest thing for us is our offensive line came together. We had to rebuild after losing 4 really good linemen last year. And they've come around and really helped us out, especially in the postseason.
Talk about Noah and Larry's leadership this year and how it's been in plus for you guys.
Yeah, Noah's a quarterback, and we expect leadership out of them, and we've got it. And Larry's a first-year running back, never played running back before this year, and he's really turned a lot of heads. Nobody knew him before this year, but people know him now. And then obviously we have some, leaders on defense with Will Clark being one of them.
You guys jumped out to 17-0 lead against Westfield last week and ran back in the game. What was the momentum and stuff like that as far after the Blues lead? It's like, hey, we're still in good shape. We're going to be able to do this, even though it's a double overtime win for you guys.
Yeah, I think our guys held together, and at that point, there's no sense of putting your head down, and that you got to give credit to Westfield. They came back, made a great run at us, and then we were able to do some things in double overtime. But I was really happy the way our kids kept their composure and competed throughout the game.
All right, you're going to have a tough matchup against Ben Davis, who's a juggernaut and stuff like that. Talk about what you're going to have to do to stop Guchowski, Sabinski, and Zachary on Saturday night.
We got to do what we've done, right? There's no sense of changing. We've never faced a team of this caliber, on offense. So we're going to have to do some things to slow them down and slow the game down a little bit. But they're just a fantastic team. Their talent level is off the charts, and we're just going to have to play Crown Point defense and hope it's good enough.
I know it's an exciting week for you guys like that, but how are you going to keep the pressure down to a minimum that's not at all for you guys to say, hey, we're going for something we never did? You've coached in the state finals before and stuff like that. They've never been to the state finals. How are you going to keep the mentality and the mindset and say, hey, it's the biggest game of your guys' lives. We got to stay focused and do what we did our season.
Well, I think we're going to keep it as normal as possible. I think it's really important that, we do what we do. Our process is our process. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different with a little bit traveling. But I'll tell you one thing. We're going to enjoy the moment. These guys deserve it, and we're going to embrace the whole thing, and we're going to have fun with it, and Saturday night be ready to compete.
Crown Point quarterback Noah, congratulations on getting to the state finals. How's it feel?
Thank you. Feels amazing to be part of a team that's doing it for the first time ever. It's surreal. It's amazing with all the family and how close I am with these guys. It means a lot.
Yeah, you had a pretty good season throwing the ball. I think you had over 2,000 yards. I think you had like 600 yards on the ground. But talk about also how the effect with you and Larry running the ball has been successful this year too.
Yeah, running back's quarterback's best friend. So, if he can take the pressure off our offense a little bit, and he does a great job with it. My best friend, he's a hell of a player, so I love him.
You guys had 2 close games. One came down to a field goal with Penn when they missed, and then the double overtime win where you guys was up 17 early, and then Coach said you guys had to fight to hang on and stuff like that. Talk about how the mindset and stuff like that kept you guys into the game and stuff like that.
Yeah, so, it's really how you enter adversity, and that was the biggest message. Going into these deep runs, we know we're going to face, we're going to hit our backs against the wall at some point, so, it's how we responded, and we got it done, so.
Yeah, you're facing a potential juggernaut in Ben Davis, who's going for their 10th state championship on Saturday. Talk about what you guys got to do to stop them.
We just got to trust our game plan. Our coaches are going to set us up in the best possible position. We just got to execute, so.
And on the flip side, what do you guys got to do to shut them down?
We just trust in our players, trust in our defense to get the job done, and at the end of the day, they tie their shoes the same way we tie our shoes, so it's going to be a dogfight. Yeah,
so far it's been a nice day and stuff like that, but when do you think the jitters and nervousness might set in, if it set in at all? And what was your reaction when you guys clinched the semi-state last week?
They complete pass, won us the game, and I instantly found Coach Buzz, gave him a big hug. And coming to Lucas Oil, nerves set in. I don't know, man. I just think of it as the same game I've been playing my whole life. So there's much bigger stages than this, but this is pretty cool.
Thanks for your time.
With electrical services from Economy Electric Heating and Cooling, you can radiate the perfect amount of light and energy into your home. From rewiring and code upgrades to ceiling fans, lighting, security, and more, Economy Electric Heating and Cooling's trained electricians will make sure you can enjoy your home on full power all the time. For a free estimate on electrical work, call Economy Electric Heating and Cooling at 219-923-4441, and you can visit them on the web at 4ajobdoneright.com. That's the number 4ajobdoneright.com.
Earn while you learn from the best hands in the business. The Bricklayers Allied Craftworkers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. That's right, this is a paid apprenticeship.
I'm getting an education while learning a trade and getting paid for it.
The thing that surprised me the most about this apprenticeship program is the respect I have received after the proper time and training.
Classes start soon, so apply now. There are training centers throughout Indiana and Kentucky. We are the Bricklayers and Allied Craftworkers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. The best hands in the business.
For over 100 years, Burns Funeral Home and Crematory has been assisting families in their time of need. Serving Northwest Indiana, the staff at Burns Funeral Home will help guide your family in creating a meaningful ceremony. From a simple to elaborate, to traditional or unique, the caring family at Burns Funeral Home will tailor a ceremony to fit your needs. And for your other loved ones, Burns Funeral now has a pet cemetery and crematory. Visit burnsfuneral.com or give them a call at 219-942-1117.
Blythe's Team Sports in Valparaiso is a leader in athletics apparel and equipment sales. With in-house production including screen printing, trophies, embroidery, and more, Blythe's can help you to create the perfect look. For more information, visit them online at teamblythes.com. Blythe's Team Sports in Valparaiso, where the athletes shop.
Back here on Region Football Weekly in our Centier Bank studios. Thank you for still making us a part of your Saturday. Jack Thiel, Mike DeWan, besides me, Zach Snelly producing today's show. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about both of the teams playing in the Class 6A state championship. An outlook on Crown Point, and an outlook on Ben Davis. Now let's talk about both of these teams as how they match up against one another. It is our game night built by Von Tobel, 6 p.m. Central Time kickoff tomorrow night. We'll have audio-only broadcast, which you can view on ihsaatv.org, facebook.com/regionsports, youtube.com/regionsports. And, of course, regionsports.com.
You and Slick Rick on the call?
Oh, boy. We'll be live from Lucas Oil Stadium about 5:30 p.m. Central Time. We'll have our Quintel kickoff show just before that as well, kind of going over the matchup a little bit more. But we'll have live audio coverage of the 6A state championship game between Crown Point and Ben Davis. Like I said, we'll be live at about 5:30, 5:45 from Lucas Oil Stadium. Kickoff is slated for 6 p.m., and it's absolutely free because all you amazing viewers and listeners over this year. So free coverage, audio-only broadcast, Facebook, YouTube, regionsports.com, and ISSATV.org. Great game on hand. The number 1 team in Indiana against the number 4 team in Indiana, Ben Davis, Crown Point. Records combined 25-1. The Bulldogs come in 13-0. Ben Davis comes in 12-1. But the Giants are undefeated against Indiana teams this year. Only loss coming to IMG Academy, all the way from sunny Florida. I wish I was there right now, but nevertheless, both teams advancing in overtime victories. Crown Point a double overtime victory. Ben Davis a singular overtime victory. It's still a great game. you've got a lot of MAC guys. MACtion, MACtion was ending.
Plenty of MACtion.
But here it is, Saturday night. You got a lot of MACtion going on, a lot of guys committed to those schools. Obviously, it starts with the quarterback, Thomas Gostkowski, for the Giants, committed to Miami, Ohio. He's throwing to the number one guy in the class of 2025, and Mark Zachary, the fourth. He's got offers from some of the best colleges in the nation. Of course, can't forget about Speedy Jr., Elijah Price, who's really set himself up for a huge senior year next year. But then there's Zane Skabinski. There's Nate Williams. And on defense, you have Toriko Cigi, Drew Evans, Nylan Brown, Alvin Contreras, and Mark Zachary, the fourth, who we just talked about. Give me your keys to the game for Ben Davis, because in terms of record, it is the best team they faced all year.
Right.
But at the same time, they're not used to facing region football teams. It's kind of new territory for them. It is a home game for them, obviously being located in Indianapolis. Give me your keys for these Giants to win another state title.
Yeah, of course. I think first you have to kind of take the benefits as you can. Again, a short travel distance for them, and maybe not much of a travel-intensive week as Crown Point has had. You have to, again, you have to use anything you can to gain the advantage. But for Ben Davis, I don't think you could look at Crown Point as now, okay, this isn't Center Grove, or this isn't Cathedral, or this isn't Brownsburg, or this isn't some of the Indy schools or IMG teams who played in the regular season that may have our number. You have to keep that same intensity you had for the first 13 games, and just let alone these last 4 games for Ben Davis, who's beaten the 1, 4, and 3 in the class of 6A. You have to keep that same intensity for this Crown Point team. Again, maybe they're not rated, in the top 5, or maybe they are, one of these top of the top, Brownsburg, Center Grove, all these teams that are typically finding themselves with the title at the end of the year. But you have to keep that same intensity. Like this is a win or go home. This is a historic game for both programs. This is a chance to, again, you get to leave victorious. I mean, only 6 teams in the state could do that, end on a high note, win the last game of the season, cue the Moneyball quote. But you have to play it. I mean, this is your last, no matter what. You win or lose, this is your last game, and you have to keep that same intensity no matter who you're playing. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's well put by you, Mike. And you can't look at all those teams from Northwest Indiana. They're not like, the Indianapolis teams. They're Crown Point's here for a reason. Yeah. They're 13-0. They've won their, 23 of their last 24 games for a reason. This is a great football team for Crown Point. Obviously kind of uncharted territory for them, not playing the state championship first time ever. All the way in Indianapolis. I know it's on the weekend, Saturday night, but there's probably going to be more of a Ben Davis crowd than the Crown Point crowd just because of, location and where that game is being played. But for the Bulldogs, toughest tested, maybe the toughest game of Crown Point football history. Yeah. Ben Davis is a powerhouse, but for Crown Point, they're battle tested. They've got the guys to do it: Noah Ehrlich, Larry Ellison, Landon Dulwich, dare I say, Trevor Gibbs. You go on to defense: Will Clark, Seamus Molaski, Drew Corral, Nate Kalk. You can go down the list. Yeah. When you're in unfamiliar territory, playing in the biggest stage you've ever played on, not just as an athlete, but as a school has ever played on, what are your keys to the game? And I think one of them's got to be, how do you control those nerves and turn it into excitement and energy? Because this is, look, everyone knows that this Ben Davis team is probably bigger, a little bit faster. There's more kids. And that's been the whole talk this week, is Ben Davis and how much of a powerhouse they are. No one really talking about Crown Point giving their love. Those teams in Indy probably not giving Crown Point the love they deserve. Right. How do you turn all that into an advantage instead of a disadvantage? So first, I think, you kind of harped on a little bit the nerves aspect. Again, this is the biggest game in Crown Point history, and this is the biggest game for the whole region. Again, having a team down there in state, 6A. No matter where you're from, where your alma mater is, LC guy, Munster guy here, we're rooting for Crown Point. Yeah. Again, as much as it a rival is for the tribe maybe over there, nonetheless. It's awesome, though. It's, again, it's great to put us on. I've never experienced something like this before. Yeah, right. Again, no one has. I mean, the first state championship game, and there's a lot of nerves behind that whole narrative. And I think a big part, as crazy of a travel week it has been for Crown Point, I think a big part of this week was when they practiced at Lucas Oil. Yeah. I think it's so smart. The more I've thought about it, again, it kind of stinks to travel around like that, but it's you don't want to have your first bit of action in warm-ups at the state championship game, because it would, you'd almost be, trembling at the knees at that point. Just you kind of get more acclimated to the environment by having that walk-through practice that they did a couple days ago, and I think that is a very smart. I don't know if a lot of teams really typically do that, but I think that's a very smart move from Crown Point to, again, just get the feel of, okay, we're playing this come Saturday. This is what we're going to kind of imagine. A couple more fans will be here when the time comes, and the stakes will be a little bit higher. But it's a very good move to kind of get acclimated to the environment and what to expect come tomorrow night. But yeah, for Crown Point, I think you kind of, again, they're through the first 13 games, I think they were probably considered the favorites. Maybe the Penn game might have been a little tough going on the road playing a good Penn team, but you have to. I think you're going to have to kind of paint that narrative if you're Crown Point, bulletin board material, that you almost want people to say you have no chance in this game. I think coaches. I remember seeing I think this was a college coach that did this. I don't remember what program. I want to say it was Georgia, but they made up. Like Kirby Smart made up fake reports saying that Georgia's going to lose this game, where they're talking about this in the media, and it was all completely, not real, just to get the players amped up and ready to go and prove people wrong. And I think that's what, maybe not make fake reports if you're Crown Point, but just try and, find any motivation. Of course, Buzia is already a motivating factor that we talked about earlier, but it's being the underdog. I think it's more fun than being the favorite. I think hands down, again, to prove people wrong, put Northwest Indiana on the map. I think you got to find ways to, again, get that bulletin board material and shock the world inevitably. I think going into this game, I do think they're the underdog. I think we look at Ben Davis and the history they had in the past. This is a team that's, again, very talented. They got some sought-after recruits, but Crown Point does too. And I think, again, maybe the talent on paper, maybe leaning towards Ben Davis, but nonetheless, you have to find ways to get yourself juiced up and ready to go against the big band giant of Ben Davis. So.
Yeah, that's what it's got to be bulletin material, because even people who aren't on the team are close with, or maybe parents, family. If you know about Ben Davis, you know how serious of a program it is. You know how well-rounded it is. You know how good they are. We talked about it. 9 state championships, going for the 10th. They've had 12 appearances, including this year. Like we were kind of talking about it earlier, they have 9 state championships. They're 7-2 in the state championship period. That's it. In their whole football program history, and they haven't lost one in a couple of years. It's actually been more than a couple of years. It's been a while.
I think they played 4 or 5 games. It's a great program.
96, like you just said, was the last time they lost. They were in 5A. That was the last time they lost in the state championship game. Since then, they've won 4 state championships: 2001, 2002, 2014, and 2017. So only state runner-up twice. That was in 92 and 96. Now I know, look, Russ Mann wasn't there. The players weren't there. Nevertheless, this is still a football program that has expectations, and you bring in the right people to succeed or meet those expectations. You bring in the right players to meet or succeed those expectations, and that's why you get a guy like Mark Zachary. 63rd recruit in the country, number 1 in the class of 2025. It's not bad when you got number 1 Georgia Bulldogs, number 2 Michigan, number 3 Ohio State knocking on your door saying, hey, we'd like you to play for us. Or, hey, Notre Dame in your backyard saying, look, we'd like you to be a domer. So for them, Ben Davis is such a well-respected program. We talked about it, going all the way to Ohio, playing a Moeller team, then welcoming IMG Academy, making the trip all the way out here and playing them. It just tells you how tough this Ben Davis team is. But I got to ask you the $1 million question for the last time. Do the Bulldogs slay the Giants?
Man, that is a tough ask. It's, of course, we look at Ben Davis, how great they are, but it's. I've said this all playoffs, and I'm gonna say it again. I'm not gonna sit here on Region Football Weekly, what we've been doing for 15 weeks.
You were barking last week. I don't think you can go back.
I don't think I'm gonna bark again.
Dang, okay.
But I'm not gonna bark, but I am gonna go with the Bulldogs. I think I am gonna go with the Bulldogs. It's. Again, I think this is the team finally to kind of put, again, no region team has won at the highest class since Portage, I believe, in 77. And I think Crown Point, again, on paper, it may be looking like an uphill battle, but I truly think they again, they're ready for this.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, a fantastic, as much traveling as it was, I think it was a fantastic practice week.
Yeah.
All planned out, strategically to get ready for a matchup like this. And I truly believe the Bulldogs, again, I think it's going to be a very close game, similar to these past two that the Bulldogs have had. I think it's going to be a 3 or less point margin for this game. And I'm going to go with the Bulldogs. I think we see a third time's a charm.
That's true. 0-2.
But, I mean, it's, again, so much talent on both sides. And, again, I've said this for every game, but we're always happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the best of the best. And it's, again, we'll be there, man.
This is a loaded Friday night for Region Sports. Look, although football's going on, we've got a basketball game happening in a little bit in the PCC. We'll be live on site at 6:30, tip-off at 7, Hebron at Couts. That's going to be a great one, a rivalry that's been so great over the years. Both teams have been so good in the PCC. I know those Hebron Hawks have been really good. Landon Hale, one of the best players in that conference. Watch out for him, but we'll be live from Couts High School about 6:30, 6:45 Central Time. We'll be live and tip off at 7 p.m. And once again, I know we're all in football mode, but don't forget tonight it's game night in the PCC. 6:30 we'll be live. 7 p.m. we'll have tip off for that one. But remember, tomorrow night, our game night built by Von Tobel Saturday night will be live from Lucas Oil Stadium at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. Kickoff is slated for 6 p.m. Central Time. Crown Point, Ben Davis. We have a new 6A state champion for the first time in 3 years. Who is it going to be? We'll have the full audio coverage for you amazing listeners. If you want to listen to us, we appreciate it. It's our game night built by Von Tobel. It's going to be a fun one. 2 great teams going at it. I know I'm very excited for this one. I know you are very excited. I know everybody within Region Sports is very excited that we're being able to broadcast and cover this game. And I'm sure as well we'll have some sideline highlights, as we do have some personnel there right now, checking in some other games, but they'll be on the sidelines, taking some videos, getting some great highlights. It's going to be such a fun day for the Crown Point Bulldogs. And we'll see if we're saying, how about them Bulldogs tomorrow night. Nevertheless, it's been an amazing season by them. It's been so fun doing Region Football Weekly this year with you, Mike, and of course, Zach, our producer. It's kind of been the 3-man crew this whole year. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's unfortunate that after tomorrow night we have to say goodbye to football, but we are saying hello to basketball. And like I said, we're kicking it off tonight. Game night in the PCC, Hebron Hawks and Count Mustangs, 7 p.m. tip-off time. That's going to be a great one. And then after that, we'll have all our wrestling and basketball coverage for you throughout this winter. But a big thank you to everybody who has been with us throughout this football season. I've watched Region Football Weekly a couple of times on Facebook and YouTube. I've seen all the interactions, all the comments, all the likes. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means so much that you guys are involved with this. Although you think we're doing all this work, you guys are the true heroes. You guys are doing all the work, helping us with stats, information. Thank you to all the coaches, athletic directors. You hear Mike and I ramble on about all these stats and these players. It's because of those coaches and athletic directors making all this information available for us on these shows. And a big thank you to everybody who's been a part of this. Our executive producer, Chris Ramirez, our operations manager, Rich Castillo, our coordinating producer, Zach Miller. It's been such a fun time, Zach.
Dude, it's
another week in the books.
I was going to say it's another season in the books.
It is another season. It's another season in the books.
We got to that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Again, I got to thank everything you just about mentioned. It's yeah, man, it's been a fun year to say the least, to have this opportunity to do this with you.
Yeah.
It's, again, I got to give a big shout out to executive producer Chris Ramirez for kind of, letting he kind of pitched us the idea if we wanted to do a weekly show, and it's, again, I started here in March, and this is something I always kind of dreamed of doing, but this is, again, sitting here talking about football. It's truly a blessing, and I got to give thanks for Chris for letting us even do this. But again, Zach Sinelli as well, always producing. He does all the. It's a tough job producing, man.
It is.
You and I both have done that.
We tried it.
makes us sound good, man. It's. I got to give credit to Zach always. I've been sitting here with us all year, but the viewers especially. We thank you guys for your interaction and all. I mean, again, I'm just going to harp on everything you said because I don't want to extend this show any more longer than it probably already is.
Right.
But it's, man, it takes a full team effort.
Yeah,
and again, I can't thank you all, especially the viewers, enough for sitting with us and rambling on for 15 weeks. It's it's been a fun time. But it probably won't be the last time you see us.
No, absolutely
We'll see. Maybe
not.
at least this year.
We'll make our way around basketball here and there.
We still got probably a little bit more.
You might hear my voice a little bit, but we'll see how much you see my face.
We'll see, man. We'll see. But again, thank you to all. Yeah. It's been a hell of a season, to say the least.
Yeah, just a reminder. Our future schedule tonight, game night in the PCC, 7 p.m. tip-off, Hebron and Couts. Tomorrow we'll have our Quintel kickoff show, I should say. That's going to take place right before Ben Davis for his Crown Point. We'll be live on site at 5:30 p.m. Central Time as kickoff is 6 p.m. Central Time. It's our game night built by Von Tobel. Audio-only broadcast, but it's free, so take advantage of it, enjoy it, listen, and let's see if those Bulldogs can capture a state championship. But for myself, for Mike, for Zach, our operations manager, Rich Castile, our executive producer, Chris Ramirez, and our coordinating producer, Zach Miller, I'm Jack Thiel. Have a great and safe Friday night, and we'll see and hear you guys tomorrow. Once again, this is Region Football Weekly in our Centier Bank studios on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.